What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening to the market thus far and you should be watching for as time progresses, what's happening with the economic calendar, what's going on with Max Payne for SPY. But before I begin into all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 6 free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks plus 6 months of level 2 data. Putting in $25,000 or more guarantees you 70 free stocks plus 12 months of level 2 data. This offer ends tomorrow. It's been extended for just a little bit more time, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and all these tickers. So looking at SPY, we saw this thing break this key resistance around this 474 area. Because we broke above this, now we favor the bulls a lot more. But it's not just because of that, it's also because of other factors. I want to break down something else that's important a little bit later on. So as a reminder, guys, looking at the options chain on SPY for December 22nd, which is going to be on Friday, we have just under 500,000 calls expiring. We have just over 1.1 million puts expiring. That puts the puts to call ratio at 2.3, which tells us that the majority positions are in the puts. And seeing this week in and week out, the market has a tendency of holding up or pumping. So there's a very good chance that the market has more upside coming. On top of this, when it comes to economic data, we don't really have anything too big for tomorrow. There are just 3 times you want to be like paying attention to. So at 10 o'clock a.m., we have consumer confidence coming out. We have existing home sales and existing home sales month over month all coming out. We'll be watching to see how this affects the market. So watch for some volatility 30 minutes after market open. And then after that, I just want to mention that at about 11:30 a.m., we have the 17-week bill auction. This could cause some volatility, maybe nothing too crazy. Then the 20-year bond auction at 1 p.m. So it's 10 o'clock a.m., 11:30 a.m., and then 1 p.m. Watch for some volatility at these times. But everything is kind of minor. There's nothing like that crazy compared to like CPI or FOMC. This could cause somewhat of a move, so just watch this data very carefully. Last but not least, when you look at the fear and greed index, we're at this extreme level. We're at this insanely greedy level as buyers are continuing to step in. But this doesn't guarantee that the market has to drop immediately. The market could still hold up for another week or two before we see something change. But generally, when we see the market at this extreme greed level, the market's in a topping process. It could last like another week or two for the rally, but eventually there's going to be a pullback coming sooner than later, probably going into 2024, if anything. We're seeing market momentum at extreme greed. We're seeing other indicators just super, super greedy. And the one thing that's kind of important would be the put and call ratio, which I think is like right here. This is now approaching the low we got back in July when the market was topping. So I still think that this could drop more. Of course, the market could pump more, but just be a little careful the more the market pumps because of this. Now let's talk about the charts. What do I see moving forward? Let me show you guys something very important. We're going to start off with SPX, though. This is super important. Uh, looking at SPX, okay, the chart is very simple. It doesn't have to be too complicated. I just hit all my indicators. We're going to go to the weekly time frame, and you will notice that once I zoom out, something very interesting is brewing. We have a very nice looking cup and handle like structure on SPX. And then looking at this, you could see that we have a target of this like a cup and handle resistance at 4,800. I think it's going to meet that target now, and there's like nothing stopping it. Even if we get like bad signals saying that the market should slow down here, it doesn't matter. This thing will just keep going and going and going against all logic. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 green weeks in a row, counting this week. The week is almost over. We're about halfway there, and I don't really think the market's going to tank for the end of the week. It still looks bullish, and the market might just continue to try to reach that target. So I see SPX hitting 4,800 now. I don't see anything stopping after we broke this resistance, and I think that there's a very good chance of this thing pushing. My opinion could change if we get some very horrendous news around the world, but so far I'm not seeing it, so I do think there's a good chance this is going to hit 4,800 or maybe even a little bit higher to help SPY reach 480 as well. On SPY, SPY or SPY, this ETF, you could see that this thing has more potential upside as well. Let me just hide these drawings. And we have this all-time high target, which I think is going to be met. We saw the QQQ reach all-time highs. We saw the Dow reach all-time highs, and SPY is still waiting as we're getting closer. I'm going to zoom in using the hourly time frame now, just to show you guys something else that's worth noting. So we're breaking resistance. like it's nothing. This thing is just continuing to break out. We got a signal that suggests this thing would like drop. This was correct. It pushed up. We were talking about this potentially sinking again before getting a bounce, but instead it didn't actually sink that much. We just gapped up and just continued to go against all odds and against all rationalization. So it's okay. With all these shorts piling in, we might just see another short squeeze, and this thing looks like it's going to continue to uptrend. I could see SPY kind of like gap down or kind of like grab some liquidity back into 473s, though. It might come down just a little bit, retest the high 473, 473.8 area, then bounce after that and start pushing back up to 476. And I predict that either by Friday, this coming Friday, or by sometime early next week, I think it's going to reach $480 a share. 480 is likely coming by Friday, if not by next week. I'm still now favoring the bulls after what we're seeing. On the QQQ, I just want to mention that the QQQ is on a very strong uptrend. It's continuing to just break resistance after resistance. I could try to redraw this now because it looks like we have a new trend line that's acting as support. But the bottom line is this is still holding up very, very nicely. So with that being said, I mean, the QQQ has a potential uptrend now. It's just continuing to hold support. And if anything, I would say that the QQQ is just, ripping through these resistance levels like they're nothing. So there's no sign of this thing stopping. It's breaking all-time highs. The next target is going to be this 410 area. If we break this, I'll be watching for 412. It's just continuing to hit new land, new territory, and it's looking very strong so far. I also want to mention that when you zoom out of the QQQ, there's nothing really stopping it on the daily. The daily looks strong, still going, no sign of it stopping just yet. If you want to turn bearish, I want to see it lose and close below 408 for there to be a little bit more potential for the bears, but so far, no sign of it. And I forgot to mention that on SPY, you want to see it close below 472 to turn bearish. Not even close, it's still above that. So everything is still looking quite bullish now. On Nvidia, unfortunately, so I was correct about Nvidia getting a retracement. I called out this level in the morning. I said Nvidia is going to come back down to 488 to 490 and then watch and see if buyers step in. But now Nvidia looks like it's starting to form kind of like an inverse head and shoulders like structure on the 1 hour time frame. And against all rationalization, it's just continuing to uptrend. We could even draw out like another trend line, like just from like right here. This is going to be very important. So I just wanted to show you guys this. Right here, we have this nice like trend line like formation and still holding up very, very nicely. So with that being said, I mean, Nvidia is looking quite decent. It's still showing some life. So I think that Nvidia is going to eventually try to make its way back up. I think that we have an inverse head and shoulders like structure developing. I think it's going to be pushing back up to 500. I think that this is going to help the QQQ hold up. Also, I just want to call out that on the daily time frame, Nvidia has a bullish looking daily candlestick, might try to make its way back up to these highs. The 4 hour time frame is also looking kind of bullish, so it's still holding up quite decently. Could this thing turn bearish? To turn bearish, I want to see it close below 490. If that happens, yes, I could shift my view. But for now, Nvidia looks like it might try to bounce here, try to continue to push, and we have a nice looking daily candlestick. So I'll be watching to see how Nvidia does. We still have this nice bullish formation. On the daily time frame, when you zoom out of the charts, although this thing is basically stuck in this channel, you'll notice that it has a tendency of respecting typical price action that we tend to see. We're going to be watching to see if it can come back to this high. On top of this, I just want to mention that Tesla's going to be a big one to talk about. Tesla looks bullish overall in the daily time frame. It's been trying to hold its daily 200 EMA, and it looks strong on the daily. It looks very strong now. Tesla managed to get some bullish news involving the Chinese numbers, and Tesla looks like it's on track for reaching their registrations. So for Tesla, basically, we do have this resistance now that's developing where we have this like 258 area. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla kind of like retraces just a little bit, grabs liquidity back here at 255 or so, then comes back up. And we just continue to respect the yellow trend line, make higher highs and higher lows, and slowly climb higher into the 260s. I think there's a good chance Tesla's going to do that. I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla just slowly continues higher to end the year. I will turn bearish on Tesla. I will turn bearish if somehow it loses 252 and then we end up coming back down to 250 like this. I will turn bearish if we lose 252 to 250. We have to close below those and just continue sinking. That's going to be bearish. So far, it hasn't done that. So far, it's holding the yellow trend line. And I presume it's going to just continue to hold this and try to make its way up higher. That's what I'm seeing for Tesla. Still looks strong overall. Apple looks bullish too because It failed to get this like confirmation back down. I talked about a potential breakout in the morning. I just want to mention that we have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure developing. I think Apple's going to push its way up towards these wicks, and we're going to be watching for 197.5 and eventually 198. It retested 197 at the end of the day. It's holding up nicely, and I think that Apple will basically just continue to hold this trend. So I don't think it's going to shoot up immediately. I think it's going to do something like this where it retraces, pushes slowly breaks, and towards the end of the week by Friday, we try to make our way back up towards these high levels, just like this. This could be something that happens before it just continues. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Apple do something like that. Overall, the structure looks like it's bullish, with a nice inverse head and shoulders, and I think that it's going to start making. Excuse me, sorry guys. It's going to start making higher highs and higher lows. Besides that, Neo stock is on fire as we're approaching Neo Day. Neo could be reaching 9.75 on the daily 200 EMA to be tested. If we break 9, watch 9.22, 9.5 to 9.75. I think there's a good chance it's going to push up more. For the Russell 2000, overall, this is back to looking bullish, breaking, closing above 200. This thing is once again going to be approaching these highs we saw previously. It looks strong to me. It looks very, very strong. There's nothing stopping it, and we're going to be looking for another push towards this high right here. Watch resistance at 202. If it breaks that, it could actually achieve 205. Watch 202. The weekly looks bullish. The daily is looking bullish too. Could push even higher. As far as SoFi goes, got a really decent sized bounce, hitting $10 as resistance. If we break $10, we're going to be looking for another push towards 11 flats. We have this gap to flat like 11, 10.3, then we have 11. Then we have 11 flats and 11.7 as resistance. I think that it might retrace a little bit, retest 9.5 and start pushing for 10, try to break it and try to push up even more. This has gotten a nice looking structure and things are shifting big time. Microsoft ended up not actually breaking down. It looks bullish now on the daily candlestick. We have a gap to fill. I think 375 plus is coming on Microsoft. Let's see what else is there. The VIX, one of the things I said about the VIX is we didn't get any conviction of this thing breaking out. Now we have a gap below that hasn't gotten filled yet. Might just start sinking. It hasn't been able to break the daily 20 EMA, so it's still looking kind of weak. The SQQQ is looking kind of weak too, looking a little bearish on the daily. No sign of this thing bouncing. Nothing for the bears just yet. The dollar index is sinking back down again, closing red, rejecting off the daily 200 EMA. Looks a little bit weak, which is not, once again, one of the best of signs. For Coinbase, we're talking about 160. It actually broke 160. I think that it's going to be heading for this, the weekly 200 EMA. I think 168 is coming. We have some tight resistance there. I think it has more juice left. For Google, we actually managed to break our resistance, which is a good sign. The weekly looks bullish, but if you look at the 4-hour time frame, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing gets very close to about 140. I think it's going to be retesting 140, and we'll see if this breaks. Very nice looking structure on Google. Nice looking accumulation structure right here, forming a double bottom like formation. And I think that Google is going to try to push and form like a W now. And I think that's going to be retesting 140 very soon. As far as Amazon goes, I was talking about Amazon potentially pulling back just a bit. It might retest 151.5, then bounce after that and try to push back up to 154. So look for a little pullback on Amazon, then a bounce. I think that's very probable. Meta has actually defied the odds and continued to break out. Meta's looking bullish now. It's just not showing much sign of weakness. On the daily time frame, I just want to mention that we have this resistance to watch for back here. I was looking at this level earlier, and that's going to be very, very close to this high way back here. I'm going to be watching for a retest of about 353.8. And then we have 360 coming next if it manages to break that. 355 then 360. So watch for 353. Can we break that? If we break this high, it's going to push higher. I think it's going to grab liquidity again for a smaller retracement right here where this breakout is. So like right here, it's going to retest this wick. 347 might be tested, then a bounce and a push up to 353, then eventually 360 if that breaks. So Meta's looking strong. Amazon's looking a little bit weaker, like it's going to pull back a bit, then bounce. Microsoft's looking decent. Tesla's looking pretty decent so far. Tesla has a nice uptrend that's being respected, so we'll be watching for that. And the market is once again shifting against all odds. I do apologize, guys, because sometimes when I look at the indicators, they could suggest that the market might pull back a little bit. We get a tiny little pullback by like 1 or 2 points, and all of a sudden the market's right back up as if nothing happened. So the market's tricky sometimes. The market is throwing lots of like logic and technical analysis down the window, and the market is insanely strong. the market keeps going, I think there's more upside potential. I think we might just finish the year strong at this point. We only have a couple more trading days left for the year. I mean, we just have a few more days left for this week. The next week is just 5 days. Actually, not five days. It's actually 4 days next week, since Christmas is going to be on a Monday. So we have a short week next week. We just have a few more days this week. There's a lot of potential for the markets, and we're not done just yet. All right. So with that being said, right now the charts look bullish now. I think that there's going to be more upside coming. I think SPX will reach 4,800 before the year ends. And I think that there's nothing stopping it, even if I'm trying to be logical and talk about any indicators. It doesn't matter. The market just wants to keep going. So I think that's going to likely be the case. Just to clarify one last thing, Tesla is not officially like super, super bullish like SPY, where it's going to push up like crazy. I think Tesla is bullish overall, but we might see it kind of like range trade a bit like this before it slowly uptrends alongside this uptrend from the yellow trend line. So I think it's going to slowly uptrend. I will turn bearish if we lose like this 252 area than 250. But for now, it's uptrending. It's holding up nicely. And I think that's going to just continue to try to push for 260 plus. I still hold that view, guys. Tesla's looking quite decent. Might get a strong end for December. And then we'll see how it goes after that. But with that being said, guys, that's what I wanted to clarify. Please have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. Enjoy what the day has to offer. And I'll see you guys very soon in the next video. Thanks again, guys, and peace out.